This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
This is Nigeria Info.
Cloudy today. Not complaining with the way heat is in Abuja. No. I love it. I hope it's able to last long enough. But of course, we know how things are in the city. Before you know it, it's back to business as usual. But welcome to the show today. We hope that you are having a good Thursday. The month is gradually coming to a close, as well as what a lot of Nigerians are looking forward to. The switch from one administration to another. And, you know, plans are in top gear right now for that to happen.
Yeah, and well, it's next Monday, the 29th.
It is next Monday.
And
yes.
we'll be following minute by minute of every beat of the inauguration. Even though the president-elect himself said it's just the ceremony, it's not about the inauguration day proper and all of that. It's what he intends to do afterwards that counts. So fingers crossed, and I'm sure a lot of people will be holding their breath to see something a bit more spectacular beyond the funfair or the ceremonial.
Well, don't you like it to be low-key, though, saying that we're really in debt and we're trying to look for every avenue to save cost and save money? Low-key celebration would have been cool.
Define low-key. Not celebrating at all would be low-key. Because the minute you choose to do something at the Eagle Square and invite one or two, it's the same thing with a wedding. You're planning a wedding. It's either you don't invite anyone and you just hand out your souvenir and then you know it's low-key. But the minute you invite someone and tell them it's strictly by invitation, this card admits only one. That one will admit three.
Of course.
And before you know, it's blown out of proportion.
Yes.
So it's either we're just going to have, you know, whatever state house and just say, okay, do you vow to ensure that you govern Nigeria where free and fair? But if it's going to be anything outside that, I don't think you'll be able to achieve the low-keyness that you hope for.
No.
Besides, it's not like independence or anything. It's a new government coming in. How low-key can it get?
As low-key as possible.
Oh, man. All right, my name is Kimberly Wachuku. Call me Kim, the Oracle, the Digital Oracle, OTF, Madam Speaker, the Fellow, or like some say, Ochanyawa of Nigeria Info. And Itodo is here.
Welcome. My name is Deacon, and it's great to have you join us today on Hard Facts. We'll get started with some roundtable conversation right now. What's trending in Nigeria? There's so much as always, and with the countdown to May 29th, some last minute fixes here and there, and what the president is saying. I heard he revealed his secrets as to certain decisions that he made during his 8-year tenure. It's interesting how I can remember 8 years ago, and it just seemed like yesterday, and now 8 years later, well, things have gone from one level to the other.
Interesting. Well, some people, man, how rude. Someone says, you guys stop with the banter and introduce Majid already. People,
Come do it.
Omar, let's stop with that and just introduce Majid already. How far? Dr. Majid around? Is he with us? This one says, patiently waiting for you to just announce that Dr. Majid. Dr. Majid is here. As you can see, camera, can you head in his direction so that they would see? Visual evidence that indeed is with us in the studio. We've got Dr. Majid Dahiru, a researcher, columnist, and the tech team lead of Luke's Terra Leadership Foundation. Looking amazing, Dr. Majid. What's it? Looking like chairman do something. Like there's dollar to
Thank you very much, Oracle and Chief Itodo. Thank you very much. And thank you to our listeners out there that are always eager and ready to spend their quality time to listen to our
Because someone said the intro was not sounding as if Dr. Majid. That's stop
like we're stalling or something.
I'm around.
Oh my.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm really humbled by some of this show of appreciation for our modest contribution to national discourse. It's not something that I take for granted at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so. But it says he played along with the silence. All right, we're just waiting for us to introduce him nonetheless. Okay, yeah, and we're talking about inauguration. We're getting closer and closer to a new administration. Some people say, hey, there's no rejoicing in here, but I don't understand. People are not supposed to be throwing flowers on the street and dancing with drums, and it's not going to be a festival. it's a government transitioning into another. So I don't understand why some people are saying it doesn't feel like it because nothing is happening. What's supposed to happen?
Well, nothing extraordinary,
Exactly.
really. Even though you can also tell that the mood is also one that is subdued. Don't forget that this is Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, and the incoming government will be headed by somebody who actually lost election in this part of the country. So meaning he doesn't have as many supporters in this town that would have trooped out to add glamour and some level of festivity to the inauguration. And also, if you look at the mood in the country, there is a general consensus that the outgoing administration didn't quite live up to expectation. And so when the same party managed to retain power, you expect some level of subduedness, as we are already saying today. So all of this is simply to put the incoming government on its toes, to be up and doing. And I'm sure if they perform within the first few weeks, months, or even within a year of assuming power, you will see a lot of Nigerians cheering up.
But Dr. Majid, what can they really do in that time frame to assuage those
a new
fears?
direction? It's like when you have, when you have embarked on a journey, for example, you intend to go to New York, but somebody has taken you all the way on the road to Beijing, and somebody is saying, hey, I can take you to New York. This road that is leading to Beijing does not lead to New York. So the first thing the driver needs to do, the new driver, is to turn the vehicle around towards the direction of New York. And people will be satisfied and be hopeful that no matter how slow the journey takes, we are going to get there. But the problem is, if the person comes in today and continues on that same road that does not lead to New York, even though it's New York we want to go to, or branches off and start heading towards Tokyo, you don't expect people to be satisfied. So once people see certain telltale signs of a willingness to do certain things differently, fundamentally different from the past, Nigerians have a way of appreciating their leaders. People will definitely appreciate it, knowing that we are on the right track to national redemption, to solving our problems. But when you don't embark on the right path, beginning from your early appointments and quality appointments, early policy decisions that are impactful, that are seen to be in the interest of Nigeria, not partisan, ethnic, religious, or of any other sectional interest. These are the early signs. When we see conciliatory tone, in fact, starting from his speech, his inaugural speech, when we see a conciliatory tone, when we see moves towards national healing genuinely, when we see a move towards a government that will not be run as the usual business of government as we've seen in the past, people will begin to adjust. And you see people start appreciating some of the fine qualities of the president-elect that people had already known in the past. That will now begin to come to play. After all, if you remember when he was governor, he did this, so he did this, he did that. You start seeing some of those appreciations coming up. And the opposition I think today will die down because the only reason they're opposing him is because people feel he will not do well. So when he begins to do well, it's natural. It melts all forms of opposition. That is the beauty of democracy. So the mood in the country or in the federal capital city, for me, should simply be like an incentive for the incoming government to launch into action immediately, knowing that not many people are impressed by the candidacy of the ruling party and by extension the president and who will be president by Monday next week. Now, it doesn't change the fact that he was duly elected. I have made this point severally. You see, INEC is a constitutional body. It's a constitutional body. The constitution mandates INEC and only INEC to conduct elections, declare winners, and return them elected. Now, as long as INEC has done that and pronounced anybody as winner, that person is validly elected. His mandate is legitimate. And until another constitutional body, which is in this case the Supreme Court, rules otherwise, we must address the current president-elect when he's inaugurated by Monday as president and commander and deal with him as such. While the case in court continues. So when we are setting an agenda for the incoming government, it's not because we are not oblivious of some of the disputes in court. It's because the status quo, according to our laws, and our citizens must be law-abiding, is that he's the president-elect. He's the president. He has a legitimate mandate, legally speaking. But some people might decide that no, he doesn't have a legitimate mandate because from their own partisan view, he didn't win their candidates win. That is also part of democracy. And you have the right to express that view if you want to. But we are not spokespersons of any political party. So we speak on behalf of the Nigerian people and for public interest. So to that extent, we have a president in waiting who, by the special grace of God preserve his life, give him good health, will be inaugurated on Monday. So what we are doing here essentially is to set an agenda because we want our country to succeed. There's no trophy to be given to any of us if the president fails because we predicted he will fail. No.
I mean, it will be worse off. It's better to
it's immediate. So please send down first unite this country. Hold nobody in malice for not voting for you. Nobody survived that doctrine in the last 8 years. It was just by God's intervention, for example, that we survived this. For the first time, we saw separate agitations across the southern half of this country and the middle belt, courtesy of that kind of doctrine. So we don't want to see that. Democracy is that people must vote according to their conscience. And if they don't vote for you, it's because they think you cannot lead them properly. So prove them wrong by leading them right. And when you do that, the same people will re-elect you, will vote for you over and over again, and venerate you and adore you and revere you as their leader.
Now, Dr. Majid, you mentioned something about the president-elect stepping into doing the job that he's been elected for. But the situation right now is looking at the economy, security, things are not as rosy as you would hope that they are. And you would expect that he's already got his plans in place, even though we've heard promises over and over again. What sectors would you say he can focus on to see immediate returns, and how he can ensure that besides just uniting Nigerians, we all focus on working together, because that's the only way, or one of the best ways to achieving whatever it is that we want to achieve as a country.
No, first and foremost, apart from the first task of national healing that follows every election, especially one that is this divided, there's this dividing of our polity. The next thing is to focus on the economy, because everything lies with the economy, including national security. So we have security challenges on one hand, we have economy. So these two can be tackled hand in hand because they're actually mutually reinforcing failures in Nigeria, failure of security and failure of economy. Both of them are mutually reinforcing. So while he's focusing on security, he must also focus on the economy proper. He needs to bring to life those fine lines in his policy documents. I've seen them. They're quite good. I mean, if it's well implemented, fine. He needs to embark rapidly from day one on a holistic public sector reform. Holistic. He has to lead by example. Zero corruption. Zero. Even I know you cannot have corruption overnight, but you must, as the leader, you must show an example of
to be above. Yeah.
It is important. And again, we need to define corruption for the incoming administration, because the last administration campaigned so much on fight against corruption, but ended up promoting corruption because maybe they didn't quite understand what constitutes corruption. Corruption includes, but not limited to, the following: nepotism, cronyism, favoritism, tribalism, religious bigotry of any form, because these are the building blocks that eventually leads into economic and financial crimes. And I'll give you a classic example of how these factors leads to it. I'll give you a true life story that happened in one of the divisions of the judiciary in this country. A presiding head of one of those divisions was appointed in a manner that was nepotistic. Everybody knew that this person wasn't qualified, because later in the day, when the appointing authority decided to appoint the same person or nominate him for an overseas judicial appointment, he came last in the written text. You know, in that place, nobody cares about your ethnicity or religion. It's competence. So when they were subjected to competence test, he came last. He failed woefully, and Nigeria lost out in that slot. Now, this same judicial officer, when he was presiding over one of the divisions in this country, promoted his own wife and made her the director or the head of procurement in his division. Ordinarily, this should have been a red flag that should have been stopped at that point. Nobody did anything about it, because in Nigeria, nepotism is not considered as a crime. His own wife. And then what did he do next? He removed the chief registrar of the court and brought somebody from his own village, from his state of origin, who was the services of the state judiciary, and brought the person to Abuja and made the person the chief registrar of his own arm of the judiciary. It didn't stop there. Now, contracts and procurement businesses were done. And we discovered that the acquired properties, for example, for some of the justices or judges in his own division, at inflated rates, they were later converted into a mansion for the presiding officer and his family in the chosen part of town. Now, how did this kind of stealing happen? It's simple. The person that's supposed to actually serve as procurement officer and as a check, as an agent of the government, to make sure that the procurement follow due process in terms of pricing and all forms of quality control, compromised because of nepotism.
They're all interwoven.
They're all interwoven. So the parent-elect must be careful not to appoint anybody, and this is in absolute terms, anybody on the basis of any of these aforementioned factors. Yes, this is the starting point. Look, let me tell you. Somebody had a conversation with me about the weekend and said, look, this man has achieved anything any Nigerian can ever achieve in life. So what else does he need? I want to believe that indeed Bola Tinubu does not need 1 naira extra in wealth. He does not need it. Maybe he just wants to etch his name in gold that I fought for democracy, I became governor, I helped to sustain the position in this country. I want to prove that I can actually do something that will leave a lasting legacy for my name, my family, and my descendants. If that be the case, and I hope that is the case, he should do the following that we are enumerating. Not one appointment based on nepotism. That does not mean you cannot appoint people you know. But those people you know should be appointed into the areas they are most competent. And they should be held accountable. If they do not meet your KPIs, please don't even waste time before you do the needful. You ease them out and bring in somebody else. And please, you have zero tolerance for corruption. You know, when a leader is leading with zero tolerance for corruption, that is, if I find you if a newspaper reports in the case that you've stolen 1 naira, I will be the one to call the FCC on you, and he will do it in case it happens truly. That is one. Then, in appointing heads of MDAs, ministers, and all of that, he must be sure that the same standard is used. Yes, what the Constitution says each state must have a minister. There's nothing wrong with that. It's inclusion. But in each of these states, please, make sure you appoint the best available in those states in terms of competence and integrity.
It's not based on who forwarded to them at the end of the day or to him. Because
but if they don't have the competence and they don't have the integrity, please don't appoint. There are people who did APC, who supported him, that have both integrity and competence. Appoint them if you may. But they must have competence on the job you are assigning to them.
But it's also the role of compensation for those who fought to ensure that, or who worked rather to ensure that you got elected into that position.
That compensation now must be good governance at this point and not patronage. Good governance. You see, a country as indebted as Nigeria, you started this whole conversation with Nigeria's indebtedness, and you actually said today was Thursday because you were in a hurry for the government to probably go. So you added a day because you can't wait for Monday to be here. So today is Wednesday, sir, not Thursday.
It's Wednesday.
So just calm down. You get it. Now, what this tells me is that, look, a lot of Nigerians should know that we've not really had the best of times in the last 8 years. Now, we are don't afford 1 naira of patronage. Anybody to trigger us. Your house situation improves. City around you improves. When the amenities around you improve, the positively when you have to pay high wages to public, it does well for all of us. That should be the focus.
All right.
Patronage at the expense of the state.
Not patronage. All right, let's go on a quick break. We'll be looking at more stories afterwards. Stay with us.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
Hello, my name is Kimberly. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring you the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Fact Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
Nothing breaks the news like the news. Trust me, I can prove it. I do it every morning on Morning Crossfire from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Nigeria Info 95.1, and I'm Femi D. Amede. Join the biggest conversation around national politics every day in a way that is trustworthy, full of passion, and yes, covers the biggest politics and the stories that matter to you. See, you have all the reasons to find out what's going on in Nigeria and be engaged differently. Let's talk. That's the way to go, even this morning.
is Nigeria Info.
Who says it's going to be Minister of Transportation? Don't let this keep you up at night. I mean, don't start having nightmare before anything happens. All right, Kelvin from Maraba says the incoming government can give people confidence in their ability by arresting bandit leaders, crushing dollar momentum against the Naira. If they're able to do this, then people definitely rally behind them. Why didn't you invite Tope Fashwa? They would make a great combination. Kelvin from Maraba. Okay, that's very random. And good afternoon, Dr. Majid. It's no longer needs to take the oath into office of the president because it's conventional. After all, taking the oath won't harm him. But the question here is, are the politicians assuming the office about the interests of the governed people? The country is already overstressed and perturbed by what is presently being seen by as maladministration. In any case, I'm watching the incoming president and see what will become of his administration. God bless Nigeria. Thompson King from Gwarimpa. Now, assuming without conceding that the inauguration will take place, I'll be in the forefront in support of Tinubu's presidency if he implements 10% of what Dr. Majid is advising at the moment. KD Omar, where sends that one in. Emmanuel from Jiwa says, Mr. Majid, please. I want to know, I heard that Supreme Court will deliver judgment in the case of double nomination for the vice president on Friday. How true is that? Okay, he wants inquiry about certain things. Virtue from Aso Drive, it says it's only Nigeria Info OEPs and APC supporters that are looking forward to Tinubu's inauguration and administration with excitement. Just like the outgoing administration, I refuse to join the bandwagon of those expecting anything good and new. It's going to be the same. In fact, there wouldn't be much difference. It's going to be like the rock and a hard place. I'm still in a sad mood as a result of the arbitrariness visited on our collective psyche on the 25th of February in the name of the election. I can't take the risk of expecting much. I don't want to be traumatized. Okay, he used plenty word to express himself. I freely campaigned and voted Buhari in 2015 and was optimistic he would work and serve the country. But I feel very silly now. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a pessimist, but a realist who's witnessed many failed campaign promises over 5 decades of being a Nigerian. Virtue from Aso Drive. Do you have thoughts on YouTube and Facebook?
Yes, this one from Awuro Joshua. Dr. Majid, it's difficult to believe that this administration will do anything different considering the steps they have taken with the endorsement of Akpabio. The mood of the people is extremely low. And Ola Yode Joseph says, but can anything good come out of a supposed process? Dan Baba Shehu says, in terms of fighting corruption, just forget it in the new government. The endorsements have said it all, but nepotism will not thrive based on bad antecedent as Lagos State governor. And Chukwudi Standing Uche says, greetings to you. I want to state here that corruption cannot stop corruption, as two wrongs cannot make a right. If Tinubu is... Okay, all right. And that's pretty much it on YouTube at this time.
And Facebook, Nicholas Shenge, we see you listening all the way from Sun City. Hi, St. Lucia. Thank you very much for joining us. Andy Jiko says Prof. Majid is a true Pan-African. Vivian Gbeyi, God bless you too, says good governance is what is needed in the nation at the moment. Well done, sir. Okay, we're on Facebook, we are on YouTube, and you can leave your comment on WhatsApp also. The president presided over his very last federal executive meeting today, and I'm sure it must just be almost surreal for him that this will be the last, and he'll be off to Daura, Niger Republic, wherever he pleases.
He's constantly stated that he can't wait to leave.
Yeah, goodbye, sir, already. That's why you're already in Thursday. You just can't wait for him to
He has given me the mood.
Exactly. Well, he wrote a letter to the Senate making more requests last minute.
Yes. The president has asked the Senate to approve a request to pay the judgment debt in the sum of $566 million, over 98 million pounds, and 226 billion naira. Reports have it that the monies were owed by the federal government through the issuance of promissory notes. Buhari's letter of request was read at plenary by Senate President Ahmed Lawan on Wednesday. The letter reads in part, the distinguished Senate President may wish to be informed that the Federal Executive Council at its meeting of March 29th, 2023 approved the liquidations of top priority judgment debts and general judgment debts owed by ministries, departments and agencies through the issuance of promissory notes. Thus, debt securities have been issued for the settlement of the judgment debts, and approval of the National Assembly is required for this purpose. In view of the foregoing, I wish to request the Senate to kindly consider and approve through its resolution the settlement of the top priority judgment debts and general judgment debts incurred by the federal MDAs in the sum of USD over $566 million, over 98 million pounds, and over a little over 226 billion naira through the issuance of promissory notes. Meanwhile, reports in January had it that there were 648 cases brought against the president and other FG parastatals. Malami revealed that the president's regime has had secured a conviction in 397 terrorism cases, while 7,000 crime and anti-corruption cases had been successfully prosecuted by the government in 8 years. According to the AGF, the secured conviction was out of 3,000 terrorism profile charges, of which 1,500 were filed. And during the period under review, the AGF said significant progress has been made in response to gender-based violence, including the establishment of an inter-ministerial management committee for the eradication of GBV cases. And this just maybe goes to show that the president is trying to dot all his I's, cross his T's, and ensure that things are in place before he vacates office May 29th.
As expected. Well, he's done his bit. And is there anything to add to this, Dr. Majid?
Well, one of the legacies President Muhammadu Buhari will be leaving behind, in addition to heightening the security, will be a huge...
they said there will be a 1-hour documentary later today to tell you how he dealt with security.
I'm a Nigerian.
You don't need a
documentary. I don't need a documentary to tell me whether there's security in Nigeria or not. So one of the legacies, in addition to that he'll be leaving behind is a huge burden of debt for the incoming administration and future Nigerians to pay. Now, when they are not borrowing endlessly, because I use the word endlessly because just last week, they also secured an approval for an additional $800 million. Now, they have also incurred judgment debt. Now, what are judgment debts? Simple. First, should I say, they're like compensations for litigants that may have taken Nigeria to court in one decision or the other. And so, when you're asked to pay people compensation for certain wrongdoings done to them, as are found by either courts or arbitration panels, so you are obligated to pay. Now, the question is, what were those issues that accumulated such huge judgment debt? Do you know the figures they are quoting? In fact, the figures are almost within the realm of Nigeria's exposure to the CBN through ways and means. I mean, it's almost more than $500 million from the figures I'm saying. Here, that is quite huge. If you convert that to Naira, I don't know whether a calculator can actually contain the figures that you reel out. So you begin to wonder, what were these cases that the government lost so much that we have to now pay the judgment debt? First, there is one particular case that I know that the government recently came up with an announcement that they have agreed to part with over $400 million in settlement to an Indian company over the Ajakuta affair. And I have consistently questioned that decision by government because I am aware for a fact
that was wrapped under Jonathan's administration.
Yes, because the Attorney General then was Mohammed Bello Aduke, SAN, who happens to be from Kogi State. And so, of course, this matter was of interest to him. And what the current Attorney General is telling us is similar to what he inherited in 2011. It's when he came on board. As of 2010, when the permanent secretary of the former ministry, the former acting, acting minister or permanent secretary or the Ministry of Justice, had already arranged some kind of settlement with the Indian company that took over Jakarta under the Obasanjo administration for a $500 million settlement agreement. As soon as he came, he reviewed it and said, no. What is the purpose of this settlement? So he suspected that all these officials may have connived with the company to rip off Nigeria. So he looked into the matter properly and discovered that, yes, the company didn't meet up to the concession agreement it entered into with the federal government on the operation of Ajakuta, which created a basis for the concession to be terminated, legally so. But he also discovered that in the case of Itape Iron Ore Mining Company, which was also concession to the same company, they were not given adequate notice as enshrined in the agreement between the federal government and this company before it was terminated. So he got them to sit down and renegotiate. So first, they agreed under this condition to see that to put back to the federal government at that time. But hold on to Itape. So what Adoke did was he now midwifed another renegotiated agreement that says, okay, you can hold on to Itape, but you must prioritize supply to Ajakuta Steel Plant. And that after 1 year, if you do not perform to our satisfaction, we are going to terminate it without notice. So it was like simply delaying the termination so that you can put without notice in the agreement. And they agreed and they signed. They signed the agreement. That was when Ajakuta reverted to the federal government. So the government now appointed an administrator for Ajakuta Steel Plant because it is now their company. This was in 2011. Minister Fayemi, who also became Minister of Mines and Steel under the Buhari administration in this first term, affirmed the fact that Ajakuta has since reverted to the federal government of Nigeria and does not belong to the Indians anymore. And in fact, was on the process of concessioning Ajakuta when the House of Reps said, no, they feel Ajakuta should be run by the state. You know that?
I recall there was a lot of,
Natasha Poti appeared at the National Assembly and made a case as a member of the host community. She made a personal plea to say, look, government can best run this facility, that concessions after concessions have not worked. And so the House of Rep was swayed by her persuasion, her persuasive presentation to say, look, let us even remove Ajakuta from the list of companies to be privatized. They passed a resolution to that effect. I don't know that the government effected it anyway. But Fayemi insisted that he must confirm it. That was even the stage we were when Fayemi left to contest for governor. And so suddenly, just about last year or so, early this year, a news surfaced somewhere that in Dubai, that the same Indians that had hands off Ajakuta this while have suddenly surfaced in one arbitration panel, and Nigeria lost to them, and we're going to pay them $460 million. And people didn't even ask questions.
It's a little confusing, Dr. Majid. It's not as if people are not asking. People are so confused.
Then the question you now ask, let us even assume without considering that this happened. Why would the government go ahead to pay $460 million to a company that is moribund, that is not operational? That government has refused to use their own money to actually resuscitate. Why you don't find it so easy to now waste $460 million to pay a phony Indian company?
Well, we can't say they are phony.
They are phony because the same company, Rest Alaja Steel, took loans from Nigerian banks against the privatization agreement, ran that piece of ground and couldn't pay the debt, and they ran away. EFCC is on their case. They're a phony company. That was when the Attorney General then say, hey, if you have a lot of infractions, but we don't want to go into that, please, just hands up. They quickly ran away because they knew they were phony. They knew. So who resuscitated this criminal enterprise and is making it to part away with $460 million? And who are rejoicing? And I asked a question. The same government refused to pay P&ID $9.8 billion and instead went to court to challenge it and pushed every asset into that case. And I support government to do that too because...
And we came out victorious.
Why is government not appealing this one? This is the question. Why is government so in a hurry to pay this one? Why are we not appealing this? If you don't have $800 million, because people have said it will cost about $800 million to complete the 2% that is left in the Ajakuta Steel Plant.
Yeah.
If government has said they cannot bring out $800 million, why are you willing to now pay $460 to submit to some Indian chaps and then come back to now the concession to another private company?
But is it possible that there's a missing link, something we didn't hold our own end of the bargain?
The missing link should be unraveled by the incoming government. This government should review this demand, these proposals or approval that they are seeking for judgment debt. This government should use microscope to review, scrutinize it properly and ask relevant questions as I'm asking now, particularly on the Ajakuta issue, which I'm very familiar with. As a member of the host community as well, I had, the opportunity to interface with members of the National Assembly over this matter because Yeah, of course, you know my stand. I'm one of those who believe that such a behemoth cannot be run by a private sector entity, that it's a support structure for industrialization in Nigeria, and that Ajaokuta cannot be run with the aim to make profit in terms of Naira and Kobo. It will be run as a springboard for smaller steel and allied industries around that corridor. So I feel that government should actually put its money inside so that they can run it properly. Because with Ajaokuta running, a lot of small industries like nail, wire girls, a lot of these steel and allied industries will spring up and it will create more jobs. Well, Ajaokuta can at least be run to cover its cost of operation, basically. So that was what I thought. And it can also provide import substitution for steel in billions of dollars. So I'm one of those who believe that government should continue to run it and that it makes more sense to complete it and run it than to concession it, because no serious concessionaire will come for Ajaokuta when you have the option of building smaller facilities that can actually produce recycled steel. So nobody will put his money. No serious person will come to Ajaokuta. That was why at a point, to show that Ajaokuta has been freed from the Indians since 2011. The government of Muhammadu Buhari in 2017 listed Ajaokuta steel plant among other federal government money board assets to be sold to fund the budget. So I wonder why the president asked questions to say, look,
where is this one
Minister of
coming
Finance
from?
have listed this asset as one to be sold to fund budget. So if they have sold it in 2017 to fund budget, what would they be giving to the Indians today? Or if they had positioned it to somebody else as Femi wanted to do in 2018, but was opposed by the House of Representatives, where will we be at this point? So is it that somebody has forgotten that the same government took certain steps in acknowledgement of the fact that Ajaokuta has been free to it long ago, and is now saying that they need to pay this money to get it freed up? Who is holding on to Ajaokuta? Ajaokuta belongs to. Now you have an app. In fact, the government, this present government, reappointed another administrator for Ajaokuta. And when his tenure elapsed, they reappointed him again for a second time. Because before now, when it was under the Indians' control, they were the ones appointing their MDs. The government had no hand in it anymore. Because they were supposed to run it for the number of years that we agreed for them to run it. But since government is now appointing administrators to Ajaokuta, it tells you that it has reverted to government control. So why is anybody coming up with the government from Dubai of all places to claim $460 billion? And maybe that money, part of this same money, they are applying for now for approval. So I'm saying the incoming government has the duty to scrutinize this one before disbursing any payment.
Dr. Majid, quick one. If it's okay to put this side by side, what's happening with our refineries as well. We've seen how much funds have been sunk into it and nothing has come out of our refineries. But recently, Dangote inaugurated his own refinery and the president was there a couple of days ago. Do you think maybe private sector building something same as Ajaokuta would take away the pressure and the constant back and forth that we've been having with that particular situation?
You ask a very important question. Very important question. First and foremost, there's a difference between a privatized entity and a privately built entity. A privatized entity is one that government built, like Ajaokuta, no one built it. But somebody wants to privatize it. That's the type I am against, always. But when the private entity says, look, I have the money, I can build the same Ajaokuta steel. Maybe a few kilometers from the same site where this one is situated. Excellent. That is the kind of capitalism we should be pushing for. That is, if you don't have the capacity to have your own capital, to have your own expertise and capabilities generally to participate in a particular sector, don't come and seek to take over government on using proxies or friends in government. No. It has never worked anywhere in the world, and especially in Nigeria. So, for example, Dangote has summoned up the courage. He bought his own capital. He went into a negotiation with the state government to acquire land in the Lekki Free Trade Zone. He got federal government to do some concessions for him that will enable him to deliver on this project. He also got the government to say, look, why not take a stake? And government took a stake, which is very commendable too. And today, he has been able to complete his refinery as a privately owned one. Now, anybody who wants to run the refinery should go and build the refinery like Dangote has done. Don't seek to privatize or take over government's own, because government needs to maintain presence in the energy sector. The AGM of NNPC made the same point at the commission of Dangote refineries. When he said energy, as I've always said on this show, was a matter of national security. And that the events in the world today, as if you listen to this program anyway, particularly arising from the Russia-Ukraine war, has shown that governments must maintain presence and participation in the means of production in energy resources. UK is going back to that now. The Labour government, the Labour Party of UK, which they just won most of the council seats in the UK, they are proposing that by the next general election, their campaign mantra is, we as government, we want to kickstart government-owned enterprises in the energy sector. Because we've seen that those that were largely immune from the ravages of the disruptions arising from the Russia-Ukraine war, we have got those countries whose governments had control. Governments like France, like Germany, like Russia and Ukraine itself. They were able to control the dynamics and make sure that energy supply remained abundant and available at an affordable price. So that's it. Because we don't have the means, we depend on overseas territories and overseas entities to do these things. They are all non-profit. We cannot control it from within. There are mechanisms you must deploy to control these things. So they are saying we need to restart some of these companies. If possible, they added that they're going to even nationalize some private companies to this effect. Now, what am I saying in essence? Let us tell government to reform itself enough to be able to spend the money and get value for it by way of maintenance, turnaround maintenance of our refineries, and get them working. Each time we make this excuse of privatization, we seem to be excusing government away from its core responsibility of doing business, which is only business. And any government that cannot do business has no business being in business.
All right. I feel like you've said this over and over.
Let them go and fix their refinery. It is not
and
magic.
that is not stopping the private sector from flourishing also.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And if government needs to subsidize, for example, because government must still maintain subsidy. You know how? Thankfully, with Dangote, and maybe if our refineries are able to work, freight costs, forex cost, and all other factors would have been removed from refined petroleum. And so naturally, the price was to come down from what it is now by way of importation. But if for any reason, maybe there's a certain factor that made the price even locally to go beyond a certain level, government has the responsibility to intervene by way of subsidy to bring down the prices, even in private hands. They have to work with private refiners and refineries. That doesn't stop anybody from still having a presence. I say this because China, almighty China, in year 2022, spent $130 billion subsidizing energy, including fossil fuel and renewables, so as to keep its industries alive and competitive globally. The same thing with the United States of America. That one is a regular thing. America will never allow the price of a gallon of petrol to go beyond certain levels. It must intervene. Every government does this. It is a matter of national security, just like food security. Food. People are hungry, you can't rule them, you can't govern them. So energy is also closely related to food security, without which you cannot effectively govern a country. And your economy can never do well. So we need to tell this government that enough of the playing around. Go and settle down and fix your refineries. You have to do it. It's your responsibility. Nobody will do it for you.
But the DG NNPC was sounding like even with refineries working, they still cannot take away that subsidy aspect.
That's what he's trying to say, that look, it's a matter of national security. You cannot allow, for example, in our own reality today, for petrol of a liter of fuel to sell for 1,000 naira. How will we go to work?
Oh. So that was the context. It was just because I was thinking it was looking for another.
Even if it goes, and that is standard practice all over the world.
Okay.
You can argue with the corruption associated with the cost of subsidy. That is under the prism or framework of corruption. Fight it. You're not supposed to be corrupt in the first place. So it's not my fault that you're corrupt. It is your fault. But what's my concern is, as citizens, subsidy on energy, subsidy on food, and where possible, subsidy on housing and education and health is part of the welfare component of the primary responsibility of government. And the only way you can achieve this as a government is for government to run lean, not to be patronage dispensing, to be focused, to be serious, to be business-oriented, business-minded enough, to generate enough wealth of nations to take care of our welfare as a citizen.
All right, Dr. Majid, let's hear some thoughts in before we go for the break. Let's hear your take on some of the stories we've looked at with our guest in the studio. Call us up on 0700 951 0000, or you can call 0809 5974869, or you can call us via WhatsApp 0809 9930 137. So please stick to the clock, 60 seconds, so that we take as many calls as possible.
Good afternoon to you.
Chief Itodo.
Welcome to you.
I greet you. I greet Sister Kim. I greet Ogamujit.
Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Good Luck. As a patriotic Nigerian, as for me, I'm not siding anybody. I don't hate anybody. But I'm not expecting anything.
Oh, dear. All right, let's move.
Welcome to you. Hello. Good afternoon.
Yeah, hello, good evening.
Welcome to you.
Itodo, good evening. I'm Dr. Majid in the studio. Team, I greet all of you. Terry, my name.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, for me, as a person, I'm not expecting anything from this government because this government, I believe, is going to take over from where Buhari stopped. And that is what Buhari said, that whoever will become the president will take over from him. And it's the same thing. So I'm not expecting anything from this government. And if you can look at it the way the government even came in power, it is nothing to write home.
All right. That's Terry's take.
Welcome to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chief Itodo.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Majid, I greet you.
Good
and,
afternoon, sir.
the Olaku. This oil money calling from Lifetime. Yeah, Dr. Majid, you see, talking of the incoming government, as what you will know, I believe I have something to offer. Actually, despite all the speculation of so many issues surrounding, but you see, the problem I'm having is that there are a lot of compromise in our government. I remember when Dr. Jonathan was in power, Dr. Patrick Rufai-Oba, who is the owner of Qatar Oil and Gas, requested to build refinery. They denied him the license. And this is somebody who knows more concern when you come for oil industry. He knows in and out. And they decided to give somebody who is selling cement and spaghetti and indomie. I begin to wonder.
Sir, if you want to make your point, make it constructively. Don't go around. What do you mean by someone who sells cement and spaghetti? I don't
To sell
understand.
cement and spaghetti. It's not easy now.
Welcome to you.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Can you share your thoughts in 30 seconds, please?
Yeah, good afternoon, Itodo, Ken, and Majid.
Welcome to you.
Yeah, thank you, Majid, for always being at the side of the truth all the time. May God that will pay you ahead of the staying in this world, and even while you are in this world, in Jesus' name.
Very much, and you too.
Hello?
He said amen. Go ahead.
Yeah. Before the election, I normally tell people that among all these three major candidates, that none of them can be like our outgoing president. And whoever that win will be better than outgoing president.
Back to back and back.
This is Nigeria Info.